Welcome, everyone. The hour being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. The Tooele City Council is meeting in a business meeting being held at Tooele City Hall in the council chambers located at 90 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. This is also being streamed electronically on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our second item is a roll call. Councilwoman Manzione.
Present.
Councilwoman Goches.
Present.
Councilman Hanson.
Present.
And he's joining us by phone. I'm Councilman Brady. I'm also present, and Councilman McCall is asked to be excused tonight. Our third item is the Mayor's Community Recognition Awards presented by Mayor Debbie Wynn.
Thank you, Chairman. It's an honor tonight to be able to recognize an outstanding individual in our community whose goal is always to serve and help others. Our award winner this evening was nominated by her sister, Mary. Thank you very much for your nomination. This is very well deserved. And our Mayor's Community Recognition Award winner this evening is Amber Einerson. Amber, will you come up, please? Okay, I'm going to tell you some great things about Amber. Amber is a lifelong resident of Tooele County. She is busy raising 3 boys and is passionate about helping the community. She has a master's degree in education and has worked in special education for many years before moving on to working with the elderly in the community. Amber shows great care to those she works with by helping to give them every opportunity she can. Amber is a member of the Ladies Community Club of Tooele, where she helps coordinate volunteers and facilitates many of their programs. Recently, the club held a baby blanket making event. They were sewing beautiful blankets that were donated to local families. Amber also volunteers her time to the local soccer club as a volunteer coach. Amber has always had a compassionate side. While growing up, she helped care for her disabled brother with gentleness and love. Amber is an incredibly knowledgeable, caring, and kind-hearted woman. Mary, I know these are the words that you wrote, but I agree 100% with the things that you said about Amber. I have worked with Amber at the Senior Center as she has worked with the AmeriCorps for the seniors. And what she does is she helps our seniors in our community have that opportunity to go and work in the school district, helping the children read as volunteers, and as how wonderful it is that seniors will have that opportunity to give back to these kids. It makes these seniors feel so important and make them know that they're needed. I know that's her job and that's what she gets paid to do, but I will tell you, she goes so over and above. She loves those kids, she loves the seniors, and she makes sure she makes that connection. So, Amber, thank you for making a difference in our community, and thank you for all you do for us.
Oh, thank you.
Certificate for her, and then we have a bag of goodies for you, and if you would, Council, do you want to come down here? We're going to take a picture with all of us, okay? Is that good?
Where do you want me?
We'll just be right here, right center. Right here. Okay. All right. Here we go. How's that? I'll be ready. I'll be ready. Oh, let me give you this too, Amber. Keep a copy of what we said tonight. Mary, thank you again for nominating Amber, and for all of you to be here to support her tonight is very special. I see that you've got fine young men that you're raising there. You must like soccer. I heard somebody like cheer when we said soccer, so that's awesome. That's great. Thank you all for being a wonderful part of our community. We appreciate it very much. And for those of your family members and friends that couldn't be here this evening, this meeting is being recorded, and it'll be on the Tooele City YouTube channel. It's free to watch. YouTube channel. If you'll go in and search for Tooele City channel. Make sure you put channel, or otherwise you get millions of things about Tooele City, but you'll find it. So thank you for being here. Your mom.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is the public comment period. This is the time for the public to address the council. We ask that you state your name into the microphone. You keep your comments 3 minutes or less, and then you sign the paper over by Michelle and Loretta. The time is now the public's.
They all just left.
Yeah, the public is gone. All right, seeing no one come forward, I will close the public comment period, and we will move on to item 5, which is the swearing in of John Perez as the Economic Development Director, presented by Michelle Pitt, the City Recorder.
I, John Perez, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office as Economic Development Director with fidelity. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations, John. We're excited to have you in our community, and we look forward to working with you. I know he's already been busy. He's been here a week or so, but. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is a public hearing and motion on ordinance 2024-14, an ordinance of Tooele City amending Tooele City Code Section 7-14-4, Table 3, Site Planning and Development Standards for Primary Buildings and Structures Permitting Uncovered Architectural Elements to Encroach Within the Rear Yard Setback in Residential Zones, presented by Andrew Agard, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Chairman Brady, members of the council. I appreciate this opportunity to present this ordinance amendment to you. I presented the details of this to you on your work session a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to be fairly brief with my presentation tonight, but if there's any clarifications, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, and I can explain further. But we are proposing amendments to Tooele City Code 7-14-4, Site Planning and Development Standards, which really affects Table 3. This is the table that lists all the setbacks, lot sizes, and so forth. And what the proposed changes are would bring our code into conformance with the new recently passed state law, which was passed as House Bill 476, which basically stated that we have to permit decks, porches, and other architectural elements similar to that to encroach within the rear yard setback. It came along at a great time. This is one of those ordinances that I have been wanting to correct for quite a while because we've been dealing with the issue of walkout basements and whether or not they are extensions of the foundation. And so the state really kind of provided a mechanism for us to work on getting this done. But what these amendments do is they clarify that a walkout basement stairwell is not an extension of a building foundation, which previous to this we have interpreted as they were. It permits uncovered porches, decks, and stairwells to encroach within the rear yard setback. And it clarifies that if a porch, deck, and stairwell are covered with a roof and wall and attached to the building, that then becomes an extension of the home and may not encroach into the setback. On May 8th, 2024, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend in favor of the proposed ordinance amendments. So now it's here for your decision. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Seems like a good thing. Yes.
Okay, I will entertain a motion. Oh, this has a public hearing. I won't entertain a motion yet. All right, so this has a public hearing. We invite the public to address the council. State your name into the mic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Time is now the public's. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-14, amending Tooele City Code Section 7-14-4, Table 3, Site Planning and Development Standards for Primary Buildings and Structures permitting uncovered architectural elements to encroach within the rear setback in residential zones.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Manzione and a second from Councilwoman Goches. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilwoman Goches?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Item 7 is a public hearing and motion on ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance of Tooele City amending Tooele City Code Section 7-14-6, accessory structures requirements related to the permitting of accessory structures, firewall ratings, lot coverages, and the use of metal shipping containers as accessory structures, presented by Andrew Agard, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Council. In similar fashion to the previous ordinance amendment, this is one that I've wanted to sink my fingers into for quite a while and get some clarifications done and make the ordinance a little easier to understand for the general public, but also for interpretation by staff. It affects 7-4-6, accessory structures requirements. And this is the ordinance that governs sheds and accessory buildings for residential properties. In similar fashion, I presented this to the council 2 weeks ago, so I'll be brief. If you have any questions, let me know. But what do the proposed changes do? We are proposing to clarify that accessory structures may only be permitted if there is a primary residential structure on the property. So if you don't have a residential structure that you're living in, you can't do an accessory structure. We wanted to make sure that language was clear and kind of eliminate the ambiguities that existed previously. We also wanted to reduce the requirement for 1 hour firewall rating from all buildings to only the building wall closest to the property line. This only takes effect when you have a 1 foot setback. And obviously, the 1 hour firewall is to prevent that building from catching fire if a structure adjacent to it does. The ordinance currently requires all accessory buildings to have the 1 hour firewall rating, and we felt that that was excessive. And so I wanted to change that to just the wall next to the property line. This ordinance clarifies that the 8% total lot coverage exception is available to all properties and not limited to specific building size. That's the way we've interpreted the code in the past, and we wanted the code to expressly read that way. And then this ordinance amendment proposes the prohibition of metal shipping containers as accessory storage or accessory structures in residential zones. This went to the Planning Commission last week at their meeting, and they held a public hearing and voted to recommend against the proposed ordinance amendments. So now it's here before you for your decision, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments?
Andrew, I did attend Planning Commission to that meeting, and I had a question regarding the prohibition of metal shipping containers. I'm aware that there are people in our community that have them already. Mm-hmm. So could you please tell me, what happens if you do have one and you're using that as a storage container on your property right now?
So this ordinance technically won't change anything in regards to whether or not they are legal or illegal, because the way we've interpreted the code in the past, storage containers are not permitted. And the reason being is, number one, because of the definition of a structure. And number two, these storage containers are industrial. They are utilized to move, they were created, constructed to move goods across the ocean, on the back of semi-trucks, on trains. They are industrial uses. They don't belong in residential zones, and that's the intent of the code. The problem is, with this ordinance, the definition, it can be interpreted that a shipping container is a structure. It has walls, it has a roof, it can be put on a foundation. It's constructed of bolts and screws and rivets and metal panels. And the debate is very lengthy between the public and staff in regards to why our ordinance prohibits these and why they can't bring them in. The Planning Commission actually illustrated that difficulty in our meeting when they were asking the difference between a Rubbermaid shed and a container. So to answer your question, right now, they are prohibited by code, but they're prohibited based on staff's interpretation of the code. And what I want to eliminate is the need for that interpretation. So it will not affect existing storage containers because they're already considered illegal and will be subject to code enforcement. This just clarifies the code and eliminates the debate.
So I like to drive around town and just see different areas of town. And I'm driving through Overlake. I live down in that area, and Parker's Park has a shipping container there for storage for, I think it's baseball probably that uses it. Is that currently permitted because it's city property, or is that not permitted?
That's a great question. It depends on the zoning. I believe that property is zoned mixed-use Broadway. In that case, that is not a residential zone, and so this ordinance would not affect that.
I don't think Parker's Park is the one in Overlake. I don't think that's mixed use.
Unless I'm thinking of the wrong property.
Yeah, I think Elton Park, I don't know if they have one as well. I think they used to. I know when I was a child, yeah. So my point is that I've seen them on city property though, and I think it's going to be difficult for us to tell residents that they can't have one, but then in my neighborhood, there's one on city property in the parking lot of this area. So that's one concern I have. And then there's a lot more shipping containers than I ever realized. I don't think I realized it until I was looking for them a little bit more. And I know there's some residents that have had them a really long time, and some don't look bad where they're at, but there's some that should never be where they're at. So yeah, I don't necessarily want shipping containers in our community, and I think it does kind of not give the best perception or view for the residents in that area. So those are some of the questions I have. So
That's an excellent question, and we could look at amending or tailoring the code that states residential use instead of a residential zone. That way, if a property is used as a residence, they can't have the storage structure. But if it's a park property or another property that's not utilized for residential purposes, they would be prohibited. That is an option if that's something you wanted to pursue.
I also have a concern though about how we enforce it. So code enforcement can go ask them to move it, but if they don't move it, what's the consequence that they face?
They would have then, the case would probably be then forwarded on to the city attorney's office, and they would work through penalties and enforcement fines. I'm thinking that's the way it would handle, right, Roger?
Yeah, we would look at doing a nuisance abatement or zoning enforcement or criminal prosecution, whichever the code allows and what we thought might be the most effective. I will add that this has been a frustration of mine for decades, where the code is difficult to interpret the way it is, although I do interpret it to prohibit them today, just like Andrew does. And in fact, I asked Andrew to include this provision as he was looking at the other parts of this ordinance so we could get some clarity. And
And Roger forwarded to me just before the meeting an email illustrating some other cities that currently are dealing with this. West Valley City prohibits these in all residential zones. Mapleton City does as well. I looked into Riverton City, my previous place of employment. They don't outrightly prohibit them, but what they do is they require all accessory buildings to resemble the home. So if somebody brought in a metal container, they had to dress up the exterior with either stucco panels, siding, and other things to make it resemble the home. We don't have any architectural standards on our accessory structures right now. But, you know, there's...
That was going to be my question, because would it be prohibited if somebody, I mean, there are people living in metal shipping containers. I visited a whole apartment building that was built out of them, and it looked actually really nice. So is there anything prohibiting somebody from bringing a metal shipping container in and dressing it up to make it an accessory building or something? So it doesn't look like the
This code and the way that the code is interpreted. And also, there's design standards that technically the state says we can't enforce, but we still have those on the book to try to encourage maximum compliance. But really, it comes down to the structure of the definition of a structure, and the way that this can be interpreted in so many different ways. But this prohibition, if it goes through, is exclusively for accessory storage, accessory sheds, those types of things.
Well, I know the one you're referring to, and 2 years ago it's not an appropriate location for it, and I complained and asked the Parks Department to have the baseball people paint it so it looks at least a little bit better. So I don't know that I'm in favor of just allowing them in parks, because they're not any better, but I do think there are a lot of people that already have them, and they can be dressed up.
Yeah, you raise really good points. And these are even though it's kind of a retro technology, it's on the cutting edge of new housing types. And that's really not what we're addressing, and I don't think we mean to discourage looking at that. What we mean to discourage is simply the steel shipping containers on people's front lawns as accessory structures.
I've had many situations where somebody brings one in, plops it down in their backyard, and the neighbor's calling me. I have to look at this every time I go out in my backyard because it's got graffiti on it. It's rusting out. It's an industrial type of it's industrial equipment, and humans have been creative, and they've created ways to build homes out of them and do other things. But they were designed to ship material product. And so really the question comes down to, do we want those in our residential zones?
But when those people have called and complained, have we done something about it? Because you've said that you interpret the code currently that they can't have that. Have we done anything currently? Since we're interpreting the code already that they can't have them, have we tried to get them to remove it, or?
Yes, we do forward those complaints onto the code enforcement department, and they do begin the enforcement proceedings. When code enforcement was under community development, Anne was involved with at least 3 or 4 of these, and she got some results and had them removed. So we do enforce them when we receive complaints. We don't drive around and look for them to enforce, but if a complaint comes, we get on that immediately.
Okay. Councilman Hanson, you had a comment, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I think you've addressed it already, but, around not just Tooele, but around the country, they're using these containers and making all kinds of things out of them and making them look good. I think that's what a lot of the discussion in the Planning Commission meeting is about. And I think that's part of why they did not agree with it, is because you can take them metal shipping containers and make them, into all kinds of different things, and make them, like dress them up to look like a house, or even people that made them into places to live. So I think that was they didn't want to outright make it so you could not have them, period. They wanted some clarification.
So another area that has a lot of shipping containers is the old hospital, the haunted hospital now. is that the exception to this rule too? I know that there's probably some other things going on there, but because it's a mixed-use zone, that makes so that they can?
Technically, it's MUG, and it's a commercial zone.
Okay.
And so these are not prohibited in commercial zones. So
Walmart has them.
Walmart has them. The swig is made out of a shipping
Right.
container. So yeah, there's some good uses for them. I had a lady that wanted to do a salon using a couple of shipping containers, and her plans look pretty good. No issues with the commercial. This is strictly in residential zones, residential properties.
I also had a comment, you'd mentioned the Rubbermaid shed versus a shipping container, and I think that the difference is the intended uses. So a Rubbermaid shed is intended to hold garden materials or, storage, but a shipping container, I believe, is for industrial use and probably not appropriate for residential.
I think that is an
It could be
excellent
a nice-
determination, and I agree with that. A lot of it depends on the intended use, and those containers are industrial.
And you also discussed if one of these shipping containers was on a foundation, and if there were some modifications. Is there anything that could be defined in this code that would be an allowable use if it?
I think the code, as it's currently written in regards to a structure, is fine. I don't know if we want to open the can of worms trying to make a broader definition of a structure. I think the easier way out is if we don't want them in the city, is to just say they're not permitted in the city, residential properties. I don't know. I think tinkering with that definition not going to get us anywhere.
Which we already know it is a prohibited use. So we're not changing that at all. It's
No,
already
we're not.
prohibited. I see.
Just trying to clarify the code, make it easier for the public and for staff.
Okay.
So,
And I mean, I feel the same way that we shouldn't have them in residential. I worry about enforcement, and I don't think that we should pass an ordinance that isn't going to be enforced. So, I mean, the burden falls on the administration, right? Once it's done, the administration gets to enforce it, so, which can be a challenge, I know that. But yeah, that's my biggest concern, is that I like to think of myself in a residential area, and then all of a sudden I wake up and there's a giant shipping container in someone's backyard, and I don't want to see that. So, yeah, I agree. I understand the reasoning, but I did have these concerns about us having one on city property, and so.
yeah, that's a valid point. It's one that I hadn't considered. But
I have to have somebody who can help me get into the code and find the right tables, but the zone for down there is P overlake, so it's a special one. As far as the shipping containers right now up near the Tooele Valley Museum, and I didn't look to see what that zone was.
that's the
but-
mixed-use Broadway.
Mixed-use Broadway.
and that one is the mixed-use Broadway, but I don't like them there either. And so we are asking the ball clubs who have them there to find a place. It's not even so much the container itself, it's the graffiti that is constantly applied to the building. And so we're trying to find a better-looking way to store what we have in a building rather than in a shipping container. So if this is one way or the other, we will make sure any city properties comply.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you for your
Okay.
questions.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Great. This item also has a public hearing, so we will open up the public hearing. We ask that you state your name into the mic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion or more discussion, whatever we feel is necessary.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-15 and ordinance of Tooele City amending Tooele City Code Section 7-14-6, accessory structures requirements related to the permitting of accessory structures, firewall ratings, lot coverages, and the use of metal shipping containers as accessory structures.
I'll second your motion. So we have a motion from Councilwoman Gouches and a second from myself, Councilman Brady. We'll take
Chairman,
it-
before you vote, I think I need to ask a clarifying question. Is this prohibition limited to the residential zones or to all zoning districts in the city? If you could clarify that in your motion, I think that would help.
I understood it to be related to the residential zone, and we did have further discussion of zones where it would be a permitted use, so this is just strictly for residential zone.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll maintain my second for the residential portion. Okay, we will take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gouches,
Yes.
Councilman Hanson,
Nay.
I'm Councilman Brady, and I vote aye. So that passes 3-1. Item 8 is Resolution 2024-40, a resolution of the Tooele City Council consenting to mayor's appointment, I was going to say Mayor Wynn's appointment of Justin Weicker and reappointment of Julianne Prescott and Stephen Sagers to the Tooele City Tree Advisory Board, presented by Darwin Cook, the Parks and Recreation Director.
Yes, thank you, Council. This resolution 2024-40 is in regards to our tree board. In November 17th, 2021, we formed the Tooele City Tree Board, and at that time we called board members, and it's just come through natural events of life that a couple of our board members have resigned. So we've have a replacement. We've already replaced one in a previous meeting, and we've now submitted Justin Wicker's name to the mayor for a recommendation to serve on the board. The board members serve for 3 years. When we originally formed the board, we staggered those original first appointments, which is the reason why Stephen Sagers and Julie Prescott's have come up, because that was part of that staggering. And so both of them have expressed interest to continue serving on the board. And then Justin Wicker applied to be the new board member at the result of a resignation, resignation. So any questions?
Nope. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Resolution 2024-40, a resolution of the Tooele City Council consenting to the mayor's appointment of Justin Wicker and reappointment of Julianne Prescott and Stephen Sagers to the Tooele City Tree Advisory Board.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Manzione, a second from Councilman Hanson. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gouches,
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione.
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Thanks, Darwin. Item 9 is Resolution 2024-42, a resolution of the Tooele City Council approving an agreement with Holbrook Asphalt LLC for roadway maintenance, presented by Jamie Grand Prix, the Public Works Director.
Good evening, Council. The resolution I have for you tonight is a new asphalt, not a new for us, but not a new one that's been around, but just a new one for us to look at a way to preserving some of our roadway without having to do a slurry or a chip. We've looked at some other options for asphalt preservation and came across some HA5, high-density mineral bond. The county uses it quite a bit. Several other cities in the state of Utah has been using it. We've decided that we would like to try to use it for a couple of roads in town and see how it will help with keeping our roads preserved. Asphalt tends to get cracked from the weather, from UV over time. Some roads are pretty wide. It takes a pretty good budget to replace that road if it goes bad. And so we try to put slurry or chip seals on some of those roads to prevent them from getting too bad. In this case, this would help with that. This product tends to help with moisture coming into the road, causing cracking, UV, a little bit better than what chips and slurry does. And so with this, we've kind of picked a couple of roads in town, kind of in the Overlake area, Barra Boulevard and Aaron Drive, that we'd like to try this treatment on. I did hear some pros and cons. Cons being basically that on hills, on slopes, it doesn't do very well. It's kind of a slicker kind of asphalt treatment, and so hills don't tend to do very good when they're wet. And so I figured I'd find a couple of good flat roads in town to do it, and those roads being pretty flat, I thought that was the best place to do it. So we reached out. This one is kind of a sole source company. Based off of it's kind of, they have to do their own kind of mix for the aggregates and how it works with the mineral bond. And so I wasn't able to really get any bids for this kind of a project. The measurements of Bear and Aaron came out to be about $118,668. We did ask for a $6,000 contingency just in case we had to go a little extra with the roads as we get going. We always tend to find with slurry and chip seal, sometimes we end up wanting to go just a little bit more because where we ended up thinking we wanted to end here and it was better to end here instead. And so it's just kind of nice to have a little bit of contingency for that if that's the case. We did include a couple of cul-de-sacs coming off of Aaron Drive that we felt needed to be done, and that is included in the $118,000 cost. So with that, I ask to see if we can get an approval on this resolution and move forward. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Do you have to repair the road in any locations before you put this on? I know
Yeah.
some of those roads down there maybe need a few
Yeah.
areas that need to be repaired.
Sometimes, depending on cracks and stuff, it might need a crack seal. Barra Boulevard and Aaron's been crack sealed, and so it is ready for that kind of a treatment. They do say the mineral bond works best at 5 to 7 years of age, and most of my roads or most of the roads are older than that. And so, but we did bring the Holbrook guy out, and he said Barra and Aaron do meet his qualifications. He's pretty particular on when he'll use HA5, and so, but he did check those two roads, and he was fine doing that. So there's kind of a time, you get to a certain point, but it's nice to get a treatment. If we replace the road and put a new road down, you want to put some type of treatment on it as soon as you can, because it will break it down, a new road down pretty quick if you don't get some type of treatment on it. So this is one that we just like to try out. It's a little bit more than a slurry seal per square foot, but it's about in line for about a chip seal. So it's about kind of equals what a chip seal would be cost-wise. So it's not too expensive to do for the most part.
Okay.
If it requires us to do some treatments, usually we try to do those treatments prior to that. He would include that in his cost if it needed to be done, but crack seal we can do. If you have also noticed, if you've been down 2400 North or down 400 West, you've seen some bigger patches of mastic that we put down. That's another treatment that we've been looking at doing. That helps with more like alligator portions of the road. And so it could be good before you do a chip seal to put some mastic down. So we're just looking at things and trying things out to see what we can do to help save the roads and save the budget a little bit.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have just
Yeah, go
a
ahead.
question. What's the life expectancy of this compared to slurry seal? Is it the same? Does it extend the life?
Yes, this one, the ones that we looked out in the county, we've seen some that went back about as far as 7 years. And even the 7-year ones, they seemed a little bit lighter, didn't seem as good, but they still didn't have hardly any cracks to them. Slurry, we're lucky to get 2 or 3 years out of a slurry before it needs to be slurried again. So, and chip usually is one that could last for, 5 to 7. And so we're hoping to kind of get this. This gives it more of a finished, smooth blacktop appearance on the mineral bond, where a chip seal is more of a rocky, kind of chip seal, look after it's done. So they're kind of comparable, but we just kind of want to see how it relates to chip and see how they do. So that was one of the reasons we thought about doing it. And Bear, I think, would be a good one to do that with.
I was reading a little bit about HA5, and yeah, it has It convinced me, let's just say that. I'm
There's
no
some-
expert, though. I mean, you and Paul know a lot more about all this, so.
There's
But I
some
saw
cool
that Spanish
videos.
Fork City has used this quite a bit, it looked like, in some of their things that popped up on the internet, so.
And Salem's another one that's used
Salem,
it quite a bit too. Yeah, a lot of Utah counties,
Yeah.
cities have used it quite a bit.
It seems like it could be a little bit cheaper in the long run because it lasts a little bit
Yeah, because,
longer.
we get a little bit more life out of it.
Great, okay. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-42, a resolution of the Tooele City Council approving an agreement with Holbrook Asphalt LLC for roadway maintenance.
A second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Goches, a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilwoman Goches?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson? Councilman
Just a
Hanson?
second. Hey, I was on mute. Aye.
Oh, okay. I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Item 10 is Resolution 2024-43, a resolution of the Tooele City Council adopting the Tooele City Active Transportation Plan presented by Marisa Manzione, the RDA Chair.
Okay, I won't spend a lot of time since we talked about this in our work meeting, but this is adopting the active transportation plan, which was done, the plan was done with, in coordination with a grant through Wasatch Front Regional Council. It took about a year, we had a lot of meetings, a great steering committee, and they have made the changes we have requested, and I present to you the active transportation plan.
Okay. Any questions since the work meeting? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2024-43, a resolution of the Tooele City Council adopting the Tooele City Active Transportation Plan.
And I'll second.
We have a motion. Okay, Marisa beat you to it, Ed. So a motion
That
from,
works for me.
okay, a motion from Councilwoman Goches, a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Goches?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. And then there's no invoices or purchase orders tonight. Item 12 is our minutes from the May 1st, 2024 work meeting and the May 1st, 2024 business meeting. Any corrections? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right, and I'll second your motion. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Goches?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
I wasn't here for the meeting, but I did watch the meeting and I read the minutes, so I will vote aye.
Okay, and I'm Councilman Brady, and I vote aye. That passes 4-0. And item 13 is to adjourn at 7:43.